Welcome to episode 7 of Wrestling is Fiction, where WWE meets fan fiction. I'm Zach Hannigan with my partner Darkstar Shady. We have a PLE and a couple episodes of Raw and Smackdown to go over. Let's get into it.
What's up, everybody? Darkstar Shady here, and before we get into today's episode, it's time to go through a few of our sponsors. First off, you can head to my website, darkstarshady.com/wrestlingisfiction. You'll find everywhere you can listen to our podcast. After that, you can head to our sponsors page, where you'll find, first off, the official sponsor of Wrestling is Fiction, Gengar's TCG shop over on TikTok. He sells Pokemon cards by the single and by the pack. He does live rip and ships where you can buy the packs while he's live. He opens them up for everyone to see what you pull, and then he mails you the cards afterwards. After that, I've partnered with a gaming energy drink company called Dubby. If you use code DARKSTAR10 on W.GG, you'll get 10% off your next order, and I really recommend the Galaxy Grenade flavor. It's watermelon, guava, lime, and I really like how I feel drinking it. Gives me a lot of energy, I don't get jittery or anything like that, and I've been drinking it for a few weeks now, and I'm really enjoying it. Let's get to today's episode.
All right, we are coming off our King and Queen of the Ring, Steven. I know you have plenty of thoughts about that PLE and Mr. Randy Orton, but in order to do it justice, we got to talk a little bit about the Smackdown in Saudi Arabia that set up our King of the Ring finals.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought I watched this event. I thought I went through and saw everything. Pulling up the recap before we started recording, I don't remember half of this.
I think we both said that.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of in PLE mode already by the time the SmackDown comes, and I don't know that there was a bunch of questions about who would win those King of the Ring semifinals. I mean, I guess you could say it was maybe a surprise that Nia and Belair outcome. Not surprised that Nia won, though. And then you kind of felt like Randy was going to beat Tama Tonga just because Tama hasn't really been around quite long enough, I think, to pull off a one-on-one defeat of Randy Orton.
Yeah. Part of it was I was heading out to go camping on Friday as well, but I still remember having the stream going on my phone watching this, but it just, apparently most of it didn't click, but I do agree, I didn't see Tama Tonga winning over Randy, especially after Jay lost on Raw. I think if Jay had gone further, they would have liked to have set up Jay versus Tama Tonga to give that bloodline storyline a little bit of a boost. But once they announced it was a number one contenders tournament and Jay was out, I think that Randy had to make the finals in that point.
Well, and if you're going to set somebody up for Gunther as well, I mean, it needs to be a believable opponent that's going to give him a big match as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Randy and Gunther is a match that, before the King of the Ring, not a lot of people had that on their radar as a great matchup, something that they were expecting to see, but then we got a really good match out of the two of them at the King of the Ring PLE.
Really good matchup that ends in controversy. I'd love to see him run it back. I don't know if that was a complete mess up by Randy or Gunther. You know, enough so Triple H has to come out and say, yeah, his shoulders were up, but we're not reversing the decision. Would have been interesting if they went with, we're going to do a rematch at some point.
Yeah, that would have been interesting, especially since they have until SummerSlam for a title shot, so they would have plenty of time, a couple different PLEs they could give them a interbrand rematch at, but maybe this is just how they give Randy his title shot anyways, is saying, hey, I know you got screwed out of your match, things didn't go the way they were supposed to, so we'll give you this match anyways.
Yeah, it also could have just been they didn't want Randy to lose. I mean, technically he didn't if his shoulders were up.
Yeah, technically he didn't lose, and at the same time, he's been losing a lot. Every PLE he's been at since War Games, he's lost. they won the War Games match, but that was a 10-person match. So it's not
Well,
like it was
and you
a
kind of felt like the team that he joined, that was a super team. I mean, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Jay. I mean, it's just you knew they were kind of going to pull that out.
yeah, and even against the Roman Reigns on the other side, you don't really think that literally the face of each brand is going to lose that War Games match, no matter who their last opponent was. But like,
No, it's unfortunate about Randy. I didn't think about it till you texted me that the other day. It's like he does seem to keep losing the bigger matches. He'll win on SmackDown, but not in the PLEs. And I know he loves the sport and he came back, but what is he coming back for at this point?
yeah, and he really had to put over that younger talent like Roman Reigns at the PLE. Like, I don't know if Randy could have believably beat someone like that. And Roman just really needed the win, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of another guy sort of like that, the interesting moment on SmackDown when AJ Styles comes up to Aldis and says, "Give me one more shot," and Aldis kind of says no, and then I don't know, there was like a hint of retirement sort of in that speech with AJ. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know how much longer he has left, and if they are going to give him a run.
Yeah, and AJ Styles is in a place where, yeah, he wants another title shot. Yeah, he's nearing the end of his career, but does he, in storyline, deserve that title shot where he just lost giving it his all for the title? Like, it's like I said before, they gave Cody AJ Styles very early on in his run and made it a very believable win for Cody. It made it seem like he did have to go through a lot to beat him, and AJ did give it his all. Is there more he can do to make it seem like he even has a shot at winning a second time?
I mean, I hope so. I really enjoy watching his matches, and we talked about it pretty extensively. But yeah, great match with Cody and a great venue in France. I'm wondering if maybe they do another, he comes back and earns it sort of thing when they do a number one contenders match, because Cody technically does need a new opponent now. Um, but also, there's the guy that Cody just beat. I mean, there's the U.S. title sitting there. Is that something they want to give AJ a run at?
Yeah, and I saw something on Twitter that was like, this is setting up for the AJ Styles Nick Aldis match coming up.
I thought we were going to get a Adam Pearce Braun Breaker match there pretty soon
Oh,
for a
I
while.
was I was so disappointed that Braun didn't just spear Adam Pearce in half.
The crowd was going wanting it. They really wanted it.
Yeah. Do you think that Nick Aldis ever does lace up the boots and have a match, or do you think he just stays as a GM?
No, I feel like those days with the McMahon Stone Cold sort of fights are over. I think they're trying to separate bosses from talent now.
Okay. So with AJ being a little unclear on whether or not WWE will give him a title shot, we've got an interesting little thing where at NXT we have a TNA star coming to challenge for the NXT Women's Championship. Does that open the door for AJ Styles to say, hey, maybe TNA will give me a title shot, and we were doing these crossovers? They have their anniversary coming up, and AJ Styles was a big part of TNA.
That's not a bad call. I hadn't thought of that, but at this point in his career, I don't see AJ wanting to, for lack of a better term, go to the lesser company and win a title. I think he really wants one more run with the top brand.
And I don't see it as him leaving WWE, but do you think that there's the potential for another crossover where it's WWE superstar AJ Styles takes the TNA title, then shows up on an episode of SmackDown, and he's like, look at that, Nick. I have a title from another brand because you won't give me a shot at the WWE Championship.
Well, I'm wondering how much WWE will want to lend him to TNA.
Yeah, because I know they said that they're already planning more crossovers, but it sounds like it's going to be mostly NXT people showing up at TNA.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting. It's a good thought to keep in the back of the mind there. Um, I feel like we kind of reviewed SmackDown already. I mean, you have your Logan Paul caught with brass knuckles. Like anybody believed him when he said he wasn't going to use them. I don't think that was that big of a surprise.
No, and I don't think anyone believed he owned only one pair that he gave up.
I mean, you have this Bayley defeats Chelsea Green. I feel like Chelsea Green's the person they have a woman fight when they want to get him a win. Um, and I think
Yeah,
they hate that people love Chelsea Green.
yeah, they absolutely do. That's why they kind of took away her special announcement from Samantha a while back. But I think the bigger part of that match was setting up Piper Niven attacking Bayley at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's definitely going to be something that they could run at Clash at the Castle, would be Piper Niven and Bayley for the title.
Well, it makes sense, and it's also a believable, strong opponent for Bayley.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be really cool to see her get a little bit of a push there. And even if she doesn't win that championship match, I think Piper Niven's a really talented wrestler, and I'd like to see more of her on the air other than just being Chelsea's sidekick.
Anyway, moving on from SmackDown to our King of the Ring. Where do we open? I guess, I don't even know. Do you call this a dark match? The Bianca Belair Jade Cargill match? Like,
I,
I know
yeah,
it was
not really.
technically on air, but it was pre-show, so it feels like a dark match, but it was on TV. I don't know what to call it. I thought it was weird. Like, just put it in the normal card.
Yeah, and they keep giving Candice and Indy those pre-show title matches that you know they're not going to win because it's a pre-show match.
Well, also, you know that a tag team that new isn't going to beat Jade and Bianca. I mean, I don't know what opponent they're going to come up for with them. It sounds like Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark are kind of maybe getting something going.
Yeah, and I think it does a disservice to Candice and Indy because from some of the reactions I saw online, people didn't think they deserved that title shot. And they seem
Well,
to be the
people
tag team.
also don't really probably watch them on NXT, so
Yeah, and it's more just they keep getting these random title matches you know they're going to lose rather than having a believable build to have a title shot. They're just like a
yeah, I
last
mean,
minute, hey, have this.
even a number one contenders match where people see on air like, oh, okay, they won a match to get that shot.
Yeah. Um, which is sad because they're probably one of my favorite tag teams if you can't tell from our universe.
Yeah, I know.
But
Um,
yeah, that was a kind of an interesting little match they had where I think this is the second time that Candice and Indy have had a title shot in a pre-show match.
I mean, I guess it's at a PLE, which is cool, but
Yeah, it's out of PLE, but I also think it kind of hurts the tag champs that they're not worth having on the actual show, I
well,
guess.
especially in Saudi. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think the women's matches are a huge draw in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, which is weird because a lot of this PLE, if you include that, was women's matches too.
Yeah. Well, ours too.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we get our opening match, and finally, title changes hands. Liv Morgan finally does it. Thoughts on that match? I have a few, but I want to let you go first.
I I'm honestly not sure if I'm surprised that Liv won or not. I I thought it was a good match overall. I almost saw Becky retaining that match, and I didn't think we all saw Dominic's shenanigans out there where he was supposedly out there to help Becky. We'll come back to whether it was actually him trying to help her or not, but I don't know. I like seeing Liv with the title now. She looks really good with it. It fits her like look wise, and it was time to pull the trigger. Whether it was the most clean finish or not, I think.
So, my first thought outside of the match is what was the deal with what Becky Lynch was wearing? I did I did. Was it supposed to like be a message at how stupid it is that Saudi makes them dress like that? Maybe. Um I wanted her to lose just because of what I saw her wearing. I'm kidding.
I
I'm going to be honest. I like Becky Lynch a lot. I wanted her to win, and I honestly thought she would retain. But like you, I'm not surprised that Liv finally won it. I think it sets up the better story for Dominic Mysterio and what Triple H is trying to do with that title until Rhea comes back and has a love triangle on her hands.
yeah, yeah. I saw a few tweets out there that were comparing Liv and Becky's outfits to Britney Spears outfits, which Liv has had multiple looks where they've been very much inspired by Britney Spears. So
I mean,
people are
she's come
thinking they
out and
just kind
said
of
it. It's Britney
yeah.
Spears inspired.
Yeah, so there was a picture that showed the two of them next to two Britney Spears outfits where Britney was in like a tuxedo type of look. So people were thinking Becky just kind of ran with it, but I don't know if that's the look I would have expected her to see out of everything
Maybe,
Britney's
but
ever
yeah, I
done.
don't expect a Becky Lynch, Britney Spears crossover. Um,
Yeah, no, it was definitely an interesting look. It kind of threw me off when she first came out in that. But
yeah,
after,
because it felt like I know it was probably like spandex or wrestling material, but it just looked like she shouldn't be wrestling in it.
yeah, it looked like she wouldn't have enough movement in it. It looks like she didn't have enough like flexibility or even just comfort wearing that, honestly.
But yeah,
But
I mean, I think Dom knew exactly what he was doing. He was never out there for Becky.
yeah, once we get to the Raw recap, I have a couple other theories to float by you that I've both read about and just things I saw. But from that moment, as soon as he put through the chair in the ring and Becky kind of turned it away, you almost felt exactly like, yeah, he's here for Liv and he's trying to play it off, but Liv capitalized where she could immediately. She hit Becky with like onto that chair and got the win, and you know what? Good for her. Like she's been wanting this title for a long time and she's had a lot of second place finishes over the last year.
And in the same turn, it protects Becky's reputation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely protected Becky, and she immediately called her shot for a rematch a couple days later, which we'll get to when we get to Raw. But yeah, Becky didn't look weak losing that. It looked like Liv had to have the help basically to win that.
All right, and then we had our next title match, the Intercontinental Championship, which I didn't think Sami would lose in Saudi. They loved him there. Um, but I kind of wanted to see Chad Gable win, give even more meat behind the story of him being this dictator of the Alpha Academy.
Yeah,
It's
and
hard for him to be believable if he keeps losing.
yeah, at least they didn't have him take the pin, and Bronson Reed was there to be the kind of just victim there. Like
Yeah.
once again, Bronson Reed's just kind of thrown into the other feud just to have someone else take a loss.
Well, it gets absolutely leveled by Otis, too.
Yeah,
I like how Otis, no problem hitting Bronson Reed, can't hit Sami, though. So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah, and then Otis had his moment where he clotheslined Chad as well. On accident, of course, because he still refuses to turn against him, even though he's literally being abused by Chad.
well, you remember how long they drew out the bloodline before Jimmy Uso separated. I mean, that took weeks, and Jay
Yeah,
also. So,
yeah. But of course, Bronson Reed was there to take a power bomb from Sammy at the end there, so that Sammy could retain. Which, honestly, that was a pretty impressive power bomb for him to just kind of hit on the fly as he was taking Chad out as well.
yeah, deceptively strong. I thought Bronson looked okay, but the one guy we knew wasn't going to win. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Bronson put up a good showing. He's good at what he does. They just don't write him in a way that you ever believe he's should be a part of these or should be winning anything. And it's been that way for at least the last year, where every time Gunther has an opponent that needs to be beat, every time Sammy needs to beat someone, but they don't want him to take a clean loss, Bronson's there to kind of interfere or be a part of it to make sure that the title doesn't change, but someone else doesn't take as bad of a hit.
Exactly. And other than that, I think this match kind of went exactly how you could expect. So I'm going to move us on to our
Yeah.
Queen of the Ring final, which,
Yeah, and honestly, once they set the card for this show completely, I don't think I was surprised by anything that happened.
no. Well, it's Queen of the Ring final. I'm happy Lyra's still alive. Good God, was
Yeah.
that finish violent?
Yeah, Lyra, I was really happy to see her make the finals. She is a very impressive athlete. She put on some great matches, but I think I even said last week, does Nia take this all the way to the top and win the Queen of the Ring? And she did.
I kind of expected Nia to win it from the start, so not a surprise there. I thought Lyra put on a good match. She looked good. Did whatever purpose she was in the final for WWE and storytelling purposes. I think she made herself look good. And again, I think they're forming this Becky Lyra team anyway. Now that Becky's not holding gold, it's easier for them to sort of team up.
Yeah, and I'm wondering when that happens because I don't know if you've seen, but Becky's contract is up with WWE. And at least the last I heard, she hasn't renewed it yet.
I have seen that, which was also not surprising that she dropped the title. I don't know if that was the original plan anyway. I'm wondering how much truth there is to a lot of it. I don't see her going to any other company with Seth being a WWE superstar. I think she either stays WWE or she just goes away for a while, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the goes away for a little while. I I know there's a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, AEW will pay her more than she could imagine," but I don't ever see her leaving WWE like that.
No, it's the schedule I'm looking at, right? I'm thinking about the schedule her husband keeps. They're both on the same show, so they're sort of on the same kind of schedule. And AEW can pay anybody a bunch of money, but it's not.
Yeah,
They're just
and I
not on the same level.
yeah, and I think she's at the point where if AEW offers her a big contract, I'm sure WWE would be like, "Absolutely not. Here's even more than they can do for you." She
Maybe.
is she is one of, if not the biggest star of WWE from the last so many years. She was the face of WWE for a while. And yeah, it's like what you said. Their schedule with WWE, Seth being a superstar, the fact that they keep those couples together on each brand, and her and Seth have both talked about how they travel with their daughter. Like, I don't see her giving that up to make more money somewhere else.
Yeah, anyway, I don't want to talk about AEW. Uh, all right. So, Nia almost kills Lyra, gets the win. No surprise there. Now, our controversial match, our Randy Orton Gunther match, which we talked a little bit about. Surprises for you?
I I don't think there really was a surprise there. I think Gunther was the favorite for King of the Ring from the beginning. As soon as they announced the tournament, everyone kind of jumped to this is his chance to get that main event level. They put on a great match everyone expected. They kind of gave us probably one of the better matches of the night, aside from that finish at the end.
Yeah, as a objective member of this podcast, I'm not surprised Gunther won. As a fan, I would have loved to have seen Randy Orton get his moment. But like you said, he's kind of been on a losing streak in PLEs, and I wonder how long it is till Randy goes to management and is like, okay, time to get a big win.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they're building this towards Randy's just okay putting these people over and kind of having this down streak after so much years of success, or is this where Randy finally snaps and goes back to a heel character to go against Cody? Is that how
I
they
wouldn't
kind
even
of?
mind him seeing teaming with KO more.
Yeah, I thought that they would keep that tag team alive a little longer. I'm not sure if they're gonna. They have until SummerSlam where people expect a big match, so they've got a few months. So I'm not sure if he tags with KO a little longer or if he starts to kind of let all these losses get to him and kind of snap a little bit.
I love heel Randy, so I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, and I think we've talked before how there's not a really big, believable heel for Cody to go against, so maybe they do have him and KO team for a while, and maybe the two of them lose a match together for titles, and that's where Randy's like, you know what, tag team, single, nothing's working out. I'm sick of this.
Yeah, right now, and I guess this can transition us into the Cody Rhodes Logan Paul match. I'm super curious about what they're going to do for Cody's next opponent.
Yeah, and I don't think either of us were surprised. It was a great match overall.
No surprise
Um,
there.
Logan does put on a great match, even if the storyline wasn't quite there. Um, I read a tweet today from, I think it might have been Eric Bischoff even, talking about the business side of wrestling and how even when he was there, Saudi Arabia kind of runs the show for their PLEs. They pay for it. If you didn't notice, Prime was not a sponsor there. They didn't have the Prime logos because I think most of this was paid for by Saudi Arabia. And Logan Paul's a huge draw there, so they kind of set the table as far as these are the people we want to see on this show. This is the kind of title matches we want. But regardless of the missing story, Logan and Cody put on a great match.
Doesn't surprise me that Saudi pays for all this. That's what they do. It's the only reason WWE keeps coming back, despite the outcry and moral issues with that country. Um, but yeah, the 360 cam of Logan Paul diving onto the announce table of onto Cody Rhodes was amazing. Cody
Yeah,
hit the cleanest Cody cutter I think I've ever seen. Logan Paul sold the hell out of it. Um, you even get the brass knuckles in there, so it had it all. It was a great match.
yeah. And right after I say that Prime was not a sponsor, Logan still had a chance to pull out a Prime bottle, have a drink, and then get smashed in the face with his own bottle. Um,
Logan Paul, if he's going to do anything, he's going to get his spot.
yeah, and I don't know if you saw the Logan Paul's, I think it was on Twitter. He posted and said that he actually pitched that 360 camera view himself last year after WrestleMania. And he
Well,
was
I'm glad they
texting,
finally used it because it was
yeah,
sweet.
yeah, he texted someone in management saying, "Hey, I've got an idea for this shot. I want to get a drone, do a 360 view of me jumping off any spot really, just to kind of give it a different angle and different view." And when it finally paid off, that was a great shot. I don't We've obviously never seen anything like that before, but it looked really good.
Yeah, um, almost so good for a moment there. I was like, Logan Paul could possibly pull this off. I know you didn't really see it, but yeah,
Yeah,
great match, great way to finish it. Um, Looking forward to the next SmackDown to kind of see what they're gonna do from here.
yeah, and you can definitely see that WWE's in a new era. That move that Cody hit on Logan near the end was a move
Oh,
that was banned in
the
WWE.
Vertibuster. I can't
Yeah,
remember what they call
Vertebreaker,
it,
Vertibuster. But
but
that was a
yeah,
banned move in WWE that Cody has used in AEW and
yeah.
other places, but I don't think it's been seen in WWE for
Well, I
a
think it
decade or two.
takes good wrestlers and ones willing to do it, and I think Logan Paul and Cody Rhodes are both athletic enough to pull it off without an injury. More so on Logan's side than Cody's, but
Yeah, and that shows a lot of trust in Logan Paul to not just, yeah, we want him in this big match, but they trust him to be a part of these moves that are a little more dangerous. They trust him to jump through a table from the top of the ring post.
well, love him or
He,
hate him, you got to admit his matches are entertaining.
yeah, and I will say, a few matches ago of his, I thought that he had a little bit more trouble not doing the athletics, but like selling the parts where he was supposed to be a little bit more out of it and a little bit more hurt. And he's definitely improved there as well, where you can kind of see him slowing down in the match sometimes. He used to kind of go from being down on the mat to springing up as quick as he can to hit the next spot, but he's slowing down his wrestling pace a little bit more and kind of getting a feel for everything and not just the athletics part of it.
It'd be interesting to see if they try to throw him into Money in the Bank again this year, also.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't, even though people are getting a little upset that he's not defending his U.S. title, but he's always been pushed as a main event level talent, even if he's not winning those main events. So,
Exactly. Um, so I guess that transitions us to the Raw that happened this past Monday, where it felt like we spent it with Braun Strowman chasing JD McDonough around the arena.
yeah. And there was a little. So, this is what I wanted to talk about earlier. There was a little moment of JD and Liv backstage. And there was a couple weeks ago a moment with Liv and Finn getting out of a vehicle together, or near each other at least.
Yeah,
Um,
they're
and
definitely setting up something with the Judgment
and
Day.
this is jumping ahead, but we had that Becky Lynch match that Dominic once again was inadvertently helping her lose, but there was a bunch of pictures online that Liv has been seen with Dom's handkerchief kind of thing. But then someone else pointed out that JD was missing his a couple weeks ago. He had one around his arm that suddenly went missing when Liv was taking pictures with one in her pocket. And is this Judgment Day setting up Dom?
Is it Judgment Day setting up Dom? Yeah. Is it Liv setting up Judgment Day? Um, maybe she wants Rhea with no friends when she comes back. But yeah, it's definitely a fun storyline that they're doing.
Yeah, I've seen one person online say I hate this storyline, I don't like it, but everyone else is like, why? This is fantastic.
Yeah, this is like wrestling from the Attitude Era's relationships and stuff that bleed their way into it. It's fun to see again.
Yeah, it's definitely really good. They've got a lot of stuff going on. And I do remember more of Raw than I do SmackDown, at least.
Well, it's
Um,
more recent, so I hope so.
it's more recent, and I was home finally, and I watched it all at home rather than kind of peeking at my phone as we're going out of town, stuff like that. But yeah, there was a little bit more of a beefier Raw than we've had in a bit too, because there was a little bit more on the line here after that.
Well, yeah, a
Um,
cage match. I knew the match was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to be a cage match.
yeah, that
Um,
really upped the stakes there and just made it a little more exciting. I do wish that match had been longer, though.
I do too. They definitely fit a lot in there and kind of threw that in at the end. And also, too, I was disappointed in Becky's showing as the veteran of steel cage matches and Liv never being in one. I thought Liv looked like she's been in way more than Becky, the way she used the cage and such.
Yeah, it. There was definitely a few spots where, like with Becky at the top of the cage, then climbing down and getting slammed against the side of the cage, it just seemed very out of character for her to move the way she was doing and to do it in a way that gave Liv plenty of time to recover and capitalize.
Well, bad sell jobs, I guess, is what we're um, hinting at. But anyway, the ending made it all worth it because, we get the Dom and Liv kiss at when they cut off air. I don't know why they cut air before they did that, but um,
Yeah, apparently it was supposed to close the show with the kiss, and something went over by a few moments, and USA just cut the broadcast.
well, that's why they're moving to Netflix.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Netflix because it's not like they're gonna have another live stream event immediately after to cut for. But yeah, they closed the show with the two of them just staring at each other, and I was like, man, I thought they were gonna kiss. Then I open up Twitter, and immediately the first thing I see is, oh my god, they kissed!
Yeah, and I like how Dom was powerless to push her off. Didn't even
Right?
try.
Yeah. And I think Liv's header photo, the WWE header photo, is both the two of them kissing now. And yeah, Dom looked very upset to be in that situation, didn't he?
Yeah, I guess so.
But honestly, what a push for Dom, regardless of which storyline this is a part of and who's screwing who over. But Dom finds himself in these big moments as, honestly, this is bad to say, but as a mid card talent. He doesn't get the big main event push for big titles or huge matches where you think he actually will win them, but he's always a part of the biggest storylines. He gets to go cross brand whenever they need anyone to do that. And he's working with arguably two of the hottest superstars right now, Liv and Rhea, both from a fan perspective and people he's with, honestly.
Well, he is a good wrestler and good salesman, and all that. So I'm not surprised they let him do that. And being in the Judgment Day has definitely helped push him up to the top more. And I'm wondering when his arm heals, what are the matches going to be for him? Because right now it's JD just getting destroyed, and I guess we can go and don't really need to go into that Braun Strowman match because exactly what happened is I'm sure what we all thought would happen. But the interesting thing before that was the Gunther, Drew, and Damian Priest standoff, where you've been kind of waiting for this. Like, when is Drew going to actually try to go for the world title again? And now that Gunther's in a picture, I mean, I'd love to see that triple threat match. Those are three huge stars for them.
Yeah, and Drew has been cleared now, so he gets his title shot at Clash at the Castle. And I don't know, a lot of people don't think that Damian has what everyone's saying is the right aura. But I don't know. I think Damian comes out and he does look formidable against these people, and he getting that title has elevated him. He's got a little bit more power now, and he obviously has the talent to hang with these guys, but I think having the title just makes it a lot more fitting as well.
Well, it's new for him, right? There is a certain way to act like a champ, and he's getting better every week. I agree. Do we see Drew McIntyre losing in Glasgow at Clash of the Castle? I just, I feel like that's an opportunity for them to take it off a Priest and then set
Yeah.
up Drew and Gunther.
Yeah, and I don't think Damian needs a super long title reign. And it could set up Damian and Gunther. Depending on when CM Punk will actually return, it could set up Drew and CM Punk.
I mean, it can
They
even
have a
set
lot of
up Finn and Damien eventually down the road.
yeah, and that's something I'm surprised they haven't built more towards with a little bit more friction in the Judgment Day.
Yeah, they were for a while with when Seth held it, and then they kind of backed off on it.
Yeah, which is kind of like I said before, it's this happy little Judgment Day still, and I feel like they're ignoring the fact that Finn probably could have taken that title a couple times if it wasn't for Damian Priest's just presence at a couple of those matches where he was kind of making Finn hesitate and doubt himself.
Yeah, and I guess Carlito's in Judgment Day now. So,
I yeah,
um,
he looked
yeah,
so
and then
upset in his
you get
entrance
that
when he came
match with
out.
Rey Mysterio, which kind of ended. I keep saying this. You kind of expected a DQ of some sort eventually, or Judgment Day interference. Um, I don't
Yeah,
know. Kind of a I don't even know how to word this. A match that doesn't really push any storyline for Judgment Day, which is why I'm wondering why they let them interfere, especially after saying, like, oh, we don't want Carlito. Well, Damien at
yeah,
least.
yeah. And Carlito looked so sad when he walked out to his entrance and there wasn't anyone from Judgment Day with him. And yeah, I don't know that it really builds any storyline other than kind of like making Carlito seem like he might become a member quicker than JD did.
Or, like, is this it? Did LWO get their revenge on Carlito? Like, I don't. Are they still going to run with that?
Yeah, I don't think they really fully thought out that storyline as well as they should have, seeing as how they split up the two factions that were feuding, and now we've got LWO, and really the only other group that they can believably feud with if they want a group feud is Judgment Day.
All right, what else did we get here? We got our Ricochet Ilya rematch with Braun Breaker breaking both of them in half. And another week of I guess Braun wasn't supposed to be there according to the storyline, and I think we all thought he was going to take out Adam Pearce for a second.
Yeah,
uh, They need to give him. I'm just waiting. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, when, at what point does Adam Pearce say, you want to fight so bad, you get to fight Braun Strowman or just some monster that they
Yeah,
think will stop him?
I do like that they've moved on from the 25-second squash matches,
Yeah.
and I also like that they have him with Ilya Dragunov. It's kind of like I did with my storyline a few weeks ago, where I put Braun and Carmelo together. They're putting
Yeah. I
together a
mean,
couple superstars that have some chemistry and have some background, even if it's not the same like level of storyline.
yeah, I think it's definitely calculated. It's two guys who are familiar with each other from NXT days. So, and I think
And
Ilya, honestly, he can make anyone look good, and Ricochet for that matter too. So, disappointed because they put on such good matches, but the entertainment factor, I like the Braun attack there.
yeah, and I think I tweeted this during the match, but man, they're making Ricochet look really good now. He I know he's been a champion before and he was in the Intercontinental mix last year for a bit, but they're making him look better now in these non-title feuds than they did when he was competing for a title.
They are. And then what else did we get? I don't know. I guess the New Day is, maybe there's a split coming. Karrion Cross trying to recruit Xavier Woods. I don't understand it, but I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm not sure I get that one either, but and I don't know that I really see the New Day splitting apart for that, but at the same time someone on Twitter said Xavier Woods is the only one who didn't get a solo title run with the WWE Championship. Maybe it is time for him to kind of get a little frustrated with his group and split
Well,
off for a bit.
yeah, everything Karrion said is facts, and it makes sense why he's trying to sow the seeds there. But yeah, I don't see New Day splitting up, but maybe we get a random Kofi injury again, and then give Xavier Woods a while to get some solo runs.
And I think the only other thing really of note that I want to mention is another Creed Brothers match where they just lost.
Yeah, they came out with such a strong showing when they came back, like first got onto the main roster, and since then they're just like, all right, you guys aren't ready to compete, which I thought it was a really interesting match with AOP because they are strong enough to kind of throw those guys around, but
Yeah.
they didn't get to
Yeah, there are a
show it
couple of
really.
yeah, AOP's a pretty dominant tag team if they book them that way, and they're believable for that. And poor Creed Brothers.
Yeah. What was, all of a sudden Ivy Nile just gets taken out by Scarlet? Like, I think that was the most unrealistic thing.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming at all because Scarlett, aside from kind of being there to look like the distraction, hasn't really been too involved.
Yeah.
And
It's like
and for her to
Ivy
get involved,
Nile is jacked. Like, I don't
yeah,
see her getting tossed around by Scarlet, but
yeah, but it does make the entire group look a little stronger, and I think that's good because they deserve to be booked as a strong group.
yeah. What else do we get? Oh, we got Io Sky finally snapping
Yeah,
after um, Kyrie's loss.
we had that, and Io kind of just getting fed up with the group and fed up with the losses, which some people are wondering if we get a throwback to NXT Io Sky where she was a little bit more aggressive.
Well, I think it was funny that WWE posted a clip and Bayley herself commented on it. I think she said it's almost like you lost the best thing that happened to you. So, um, yeah, it definitely looks like they needed Bayley more than they thought. So,
Yeah, the group is floundering a little bit, and I think both because the group needed Bayley and because Asuka's out with an injury that I don't know that anyone was really planning on her being gone for, so they're not quite sure how to book them at the moment.
so do we want to talk about how Chad Gable tried to spank Otis in the middle of the ring with his belt.
And Maxine Dupree was the one who stopped it.
Yeah.
For a second there, I thought Chad was going to smack her with the belt.
I did too.
Thankfully, he just told her to leave the ring, but I thought he was going to turn around and just start beating her right there.
Yeah. And then you get to Sami interference again. I guess they're going to continue the Sami-Chad Gable rivalry. I mean, Sami's kind of playing the same role of when he tried to convince Jay to leave Bloodline, so I guess he's kind of good at it at this point.
Yeah, and poor Otis is so brainwashed that he'll stand up to Sami for Chad still.
I like it. I think the longer they let Otis play that role, the bigger push he's going to get.
Yeah,
Like
and
just up to the point where people are going to get tired and be like, "Oh, he's never going to switch." Kind of like what they did with Jey Uso, in my opinion.
yeah, it's kind of a repeat of that story, but in a way fresh enough that it doesn't feel like you're watching the same thing play out.
That's why I think it would have been better if Chad won the title and Otis actually cost him the title at a certain point.
Yeah, if they
But I
draw it out
think
long enough, there's a chance for it.
since Sami beat Gunther, they're going to have a hard time like having Sami drop that title pretty soon because he beat such a dominant superstar.
Yeah, and is it going to be Otis turning on his own, or is Akira Tozawa going to snap out of it and go super powered and take out Chad himself one of these days?
Or Maxine Dupree, who knows?
Yeah, I was a little shocked to see that it was her that stopped it, but
I mean,
good for
that's her
her.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for her.
All right, man. Well, I guess it's that time to move on to the Wrestling is Fiction universe and our shows.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a longer SmackDown, but I don't have a lot of detail for it. I'm just going to kind of run through this pretty quickly. So this is going to be the SmackDown that's coming up, which is the one after King of the Ring. And our storyline, King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring, obviously Tiffany Stratton won the Queen of the Ring title and our new Women's National Championship, and Randy Orton won King of the Ring, and he'll get his title shot of his choosing going forward. And then we also had my title match of Finn versus Damian that Jey Uso came out and made sure that Damian could retain. So going into that, we're actually going to start the show off with the match that got pushed last week to this week, which is going to be Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci in a street fight.
Yeah.
And the loser has to leave Imperium. The winner gets to stay with Gunther and kind of stand tall with him. And it's kind of reminiscent of the actual Backlash Bloodline Randy KO street fight that opened up, where the two of them just come out swinging. They all go pretty intense at each other. And at one point, Ludwig Kaiser has Giovanni Vinci on those steel steps, running at him like he's going to slam into him. Giovanni Vinci actually manages to roll away, just causing Ludwig to kind of just kick those steps pretty hard, and it seems like Giovanni Vinci is going to have a little bit of a comeback up until he doesn't realize it that Ludwig Kaiser's kind of fallen on the ground near a kendo stick, and he manages to pick it up and just swing it at Vinci pretty quickly, get him back in the ring, and get the 3 count so that Gunther gets to come out, stand tall with Ludwig Kaiser, and Vinci's just kind of laying on the mat defeated, unsure of what's next for him. And then that takes us into a Randy Orton promo. Randy comes out. He's not wearing the King of the Ring crown, but he's kind of holding it in his hand, looking at it, and he's like, yeah, I finally got the last accolade I really needed in this company. I am the King of the Ring now. I do get my title shot. I'm going to hold off until SummerSlam, but I haven't decided who I'm going to really go up against yet. I can take my choice of either brand. And yeah, I do have Damian Priest here, who honestly I could make pretty short work of. But maybe I do want to pop over to Raw and scope out Cody a little bit for a couple weeks and see what's going on over there. Maybe I do want to take title from him and kind of destroy his legacy a little bit. And that's where it cuts to break.
Justice for Giovanni Vinci, man. It's like they ever since he was attacked, they just like haven't brought him back to any show in WWE. At least
Yeah.
WIF has given him a shot.
Yeah, he got drafted away from the rest of Imperium too, and I figured they'd at least give him a one-off singles match, but no, they haven't used him at all yet.
Yeah. Be interesting to see if Randy comes at Cody. We'll see.
Yeah, at the very least, he might pop up in the crowd a few times to give him a little pause. And then coming back from break, we have a number one contenders tag team match, which is going to be Ricochet and Carmelo Hayes versus Chase U. And Ricochet and Carmelo have kind of been a little bit more dominant. Chase U has kind of just been there, but they actually put up a pretty good showing. But what happens is Braun Breaker comes out, and he's been feuding with Ricochet and Carmelo a little bit. And he comes out and spears Andre Chase, and then turns around and spears Ricochet as well. Ref has to call it. There's not really a clear winner because he attacked both sides. So Nick Aldis comes out, and he's like, you know what? We're going to have a fatal four-way for that tag title in the next week then. So Ricochet and Carmelo, Braun Breaker, they're kind of still in the mix with each other. And we have a fatal four-way tag match with the three teams and DIY.
Ricochet just can't catch a break. Keep catching spears from Braun.
No, and it's a shame because I had this written before Braun kind of snapped too, and it's fitting for his character no matter where he is, I think.
Yeah, this is true.
And I do think it's kind of funny that I kind of built up this Ricochet and Braun Breaker even before they started showing them together a couple weeks ago, and they're kind of just a few similarities that I was wondering how long it would take before our storylines seemed pretty close to the actual universe. And then that comes up to another promo, and it's Rey Mysterio coming out. And he comes out, and this was kind of rushed through at the actual King of the Ring tournament, but Rey comes out, and he's like, you know what? I was the one who was attacked, and Gunther got to go forward in the tournament. And it's because I told the ref that I was hurt. I couldn't continue in the tournament, so Gunther got his shot. He got to make the finals. But I was cost my spot by Dijak. He came out and attacked me. My ribs are a little hurt. I don't know if I could even wrestle this week still. And Ray's got the LWO with him. And that's when Dijak comes out, and he's like, that's your own problem for being hurt. Don't be so weak. And the rest of LWO kind of takes offense to this, and that's when they make an official quick little match, and it's Dijak versus Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde in a handicap match. The two of them try to throw him off balance. They try to take him from different sides, and he doesn't really care. He's dominating him, hits a clothesline here, big boot there, takes them both out, and he actually ends the match with a double choke slam to each of them and pins Joaquin Wilde for the win.
Haven't seen a handicap match in quite a while, but I like it.
Yeah, and Ray's kind of just looking on, and it kind of cuts backstage, and you see Andrade watching again. He's kind of just been keeping an eye on this feud. And when LWO gets back there, Andrade and Ray kind of just have a moment where they look at each other, and they walk off together backstage. We'll see what that's setting up next week. And then that goes into still backstage. The camera turns towards Candice and Indy. And Candice is talking to Indy Hartwell, and she looks at her, and she's like, you know what? I don't care that I lost Queen of the Ring, because the two of us have our eyes set on those women's tag titles instead. And camera follows them right out to their entrance, and they have a match against Natalya and Tegan Nox. And it's pretty back and forth to begin with until Indy takes Tegan Nox out of the ring, just knocks her out over the ropes. Natalya is kind of left in the ring with both of them. The ref kind of lost control of this match a little bit. Natalya puts up a pretty good showing for a moment before Indy hits her with a big boot, and then Candice does a little bit of a springboard moonsault and pins them, and the two of them have a tag match under their belts together. It wasn't a number one contenders match, just another tag team showing. And we go from that into Grayson Waller effect. Grayson comes out, the ring is set up for him after the break. He's got his little pretty plants out there, and he's in the ring with Austin Theory, and their special guest is Logan Paul. And Grayson Waller is obviously in control. Austin Theory is just kind of there in the corner like he usually is for a couple of these. And Grayson's like, you know what, Logan, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry they ambushed you the way I was ambushed. I lost my title too because they decided that management knew better than I did and they can just make their titles shots however they want. And Austin Theory's like kind of looking at Grayson Waller like, you're an idiot. But Logan Paul's eating it up. He's like, yeah, I did get my title taken away. It was not fair. You are right, Grayson. So I want that title rematch that I said I was coming back for. I want it tonight, but I don't think Wesley is ready for me. And that's when Wesley comes out holding that U.S. title on his shoulder. He gets in the ring, gets face-to-face with Logan Paul, kind of stares off with him before he backs up, and he's like, I don't know that you deserve this title. You're not a real superstar. You don't put in the effort that anyone else does, and honestly, I'd rather give Austin Theory a title shot again than you.
Oh.
This was his title well before it was yours. He had it a lot longer. He put in a lot more effort with it. So if you really want this title, maybe you should see if you can beat Austin Theory next week and the winner can have a shot at me. And Logan takes a little bit of offense to this, and he pulls out some brass knuckles, and he goes to hit Wesley, who ducks under it, and Logan Paul ends up hitting Austin Theory in the face with those brass knuckles. Grayson Waller kind of looks at the two of them, and he's like, I'm the host of this show, I'm staying out of it, and he backs up and lets Austin Theory just kind of get hit, and kind of looks over at Logan Paul, and he's like, I guess you got a number one contenders match next week before they cut to break.
Austin Theory, man, he's in an abusive relationship.
Yeah. He gets drug out to these events every time, and doesn't ever go well for him in particular.
No.
And it seems like every time it doesn't, Grayson Waller is always pretending to be too impartial to be a part of it.
So, just being a good host, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so next week, Wesley will be out there to watch Austin Theory and Logan Paul fight to see who gets to face him the next week. After break, it comes to a backstage camera again, and Finn and Jay come face-to-face backstage. And Finn kind of looks at Jay, and he's like, you know what? You cost me my title. And Jay's just like, well, you cost me first. Fair is fair. And the two of them decide that they're going to settle it in the ring the next week and go one-on-one again. Finn and Jay for the next Raw. Just setting them up after the Damian Priest title match. And Damian isn't backstage with them. He's just kind of watching from another room. And then that leads us into our main event, which is going to be Bayley versus Io Sky versus Liv Morgan for the women's title. And this was set up after the DQ finish for Io and Liv a couple weeks ago. And Bayley came out and just said, okay, triple threat it is then. And Liv Morgan's pretty dominant in this match. She does actually end up hitting an Oblivion on Io, but Bayley breaks up that pinfall. And the three of them go back and forth for about 15 minutes before actually Dakota Kai comes out and takes Liv out of the ring. No DQ, so she can interfere as much as she wants, and she ends up slamming Liv into the steel steps out there and kind of just makes her a non-factor. But that's when Bayley hits a finisher on Io, and Bayley actually pins Io for the win, both to retain her title and to kind of tie up that damage control storyline that they've been going at, where she says, you know, I've beat you twice now. Your run is over here. And that's where
Io
SmackDown
getting
ends.
pinned twice now by Bayley probably hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, and she wanted. They won't say it on air, but Io was a little distracted watching Dakota take out Liv. She actually wasn't expecting her out there. Um, so Io's not 100% sure this loss is on her, but she doesn't attack anyone afterwards. She doesn't get mad at Bayley or Dakota. She just takes the loss, and Bayley holds up her title high again.
Good show, man.
And that'll take us into your next following Raw after.
Yeah, my show is going to open with a banger like you, too. We've had this Final Testament Bloodline rivalry going, and last week they said there'd be a tag match this week. So we open up with AOP versus Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, and it's also a street fight. Just because these teams have kind of been attacking each other a lot, and they're trying to put an end to this rivalry. So it kind of starts out, both teams are just brawling, exchanging hands, and AOP kind of quickly just uses their size and gets the advantage. They're kind of just mauling at the Bloodline, throw them out of the ring. They find the kendo sticks and just kind of start beating down the Bloodline. Even at one point, they're able to hit their Super Collider Powerbomb, where they kind of tap the backs of the opponents, and they put them both through the announcer's table. So they're kind of really just dominating the Bloodline at this point. And the thing is, they're kind of celebrating too much, kind of going under the ring, trying to set up more things. So when they throw Tama and Tongaloa back in the ring, they kind of give them too much time to recover, and they're kind of playing possum in the ring. So when AOP comes back in, they jump up and they start throwing blows. And this is when Solo comes out of the stands and slips in steel chairs for them. And they use them. They're able to kind of get AOP down and bloody them up and, just be more like a Bloodline match. They slow it down and kind of make it more cerebral. But Solo doesn't get much time to himself because Karrion Kross was kind of waiting for this to happen. He comes out, and him and Solo go at it, and they kind of just brawl through the audience into backstage. No one really knows where they go. They go off screen. And so it looks like for a while, Bloodline has the advantage. But there's one person they didn't account for, because Final Testament has Scarlett. So she comes kind of walking down from backstage real slow. Bloodline's kind of looking at her like, what's she doing? I don't know if she's really a threat. Even the ref is sort of looking at her like, what are you doing? Throwing his hands up like, you don't need to be out here. And it gives enough time for AOP to recover. As soon as Tama Tonga and Tongaloa turn around, they get hit with the big clotheslines. AOP does their Super Collider power bombs on top of the chairs again, and they cover them and actually get the win.
That's a hell of an opening right there, and I like it.
Yeah, I was going to go with Bloodline wins at first, but I thought I really want to push Final Testament and make them look pretty formidable.
Yeah, and I almost feel like if the Bloodline wins this early, that kind of stops the feud. So I like that you have AOP winning, and where the Bloodline is the more dominant actual faction going into this, it kind of makes them feel like they have to drag it out longer to regain their dominance.
Well, I'm also having fun writing this rivalry, so I am going to drag it out.
Yeah, I really like that rivalry, actually.
Go to commercial, come back, Cody Rhodes music hits. He comes out in his tuxedo, looking real nice, clearly not in fight gear. Gets on the mic and says, AJ put up a hell of a fight, and I look forward to facing him down the road, but it's time for a new opponent. So, Adam, whatever you got cooking up back there, I'm ready for someone new, and I want him next week. I want to know who it is. So, kind of comes out, cuts to backstage. Adam Pearce kind of makes the announcement, and he says, I will announce the new number one contender next week to see who gets to face Cody Rhodes at Clash of the Castle. And then this skips to Lyra, Valkyria, and Shayna Baszler. And this is kind of set up last week when Shayna came out and said, "Hey, Becky, I want my shot." And Becky said, "I was going to give it to Lyra, but if you guys go one-on-one, whoever wins that, I'll give a shot at the women's title too." And Shayna's motivated. I mean, she's been taking loss after loss in these big matches, and she immediately attacks Lyra with that MMA background, kind of just beats her down. Lyra kind of fights back a little bit, but's never really able to gain any momentum. Shayna gets her in her finisher, that clutch, and eventually taps Lyra. It's a pretty quick match. Everyone's kind of stunned that Lyra got beat that quick. And Shayna looks kind of scary for Becky. I mean, she looks real motivated to take this title and finally prove that she belongs at the top of the women's division. Setting up more tag team action. This is also from last week when Ilya Dragunov interrupted a family match. And so we get Ilya Dragunov and Kevin Owens, who've tagged before. They're going to go up against Stax and Luca Crucifino. Stax and Luca get early advantage. They've tagged together quite a bit, so, they look like it. They're not letting Ilya get to the other side of the ring to be able to tag. I mean, they're really beating him down pretty well. Ilya's exhausted. He just doesn't look right. He's not moving as fast. But he's able to just get enough separation to take this moment to tag KO. And this is kind of where it's all over. I mean, KO's fresh. He comes running through Luca. He takes out Stax on the apron. Luca kind of gets up, tries to throw a hand. Kevin Owens ducks it. He hits his stunner and gets the cover. And now we're kind of left wondering, is Ilya and KO a tag team moving forward?
So I really like what you're doing with Shayna Baszler first, because they've definitely underused her in WWE, and you're definitely making her a much more dominant force that she should be. I think you're positioning her in a way that people expected to see her after she beat Ronda Rousey. Because Ronda kind of put her
she
out.
was dominant in NXT as well.
Yeah, she was dominant in NXT, and like Ronda putting her over on her way out, as much as people don't like Ronda, that was a big moment for her.
Yeah.
And Ronda's a previous champion. I think people expected Shayna to kind of get a bigger push after that and kind of say, hey, look, she does have a lot of talent. And they haven't used her that way, so it's nice to see that you are. And then I do hope Ilya and KO become a tag team, because they both just love fighting. That's fun for them together.
That's sort of the reason they decided to join forces.
Yeah, and that's a fun tag team, and even if it's just a couple weeks of a couple random matches, like, it's fun to see them, and I like the way that you're giving the family a push where they are looking this dominant as well, where they do look like a formidable tag team, a formidable faction.
Yeah, I love their spots in NXT, so that was my plan all along when I drafted them. Speaking of big draft picks for me, it's Tiffy time. We're going to get her promo. She comes out again in her crown and her new title, sauntering to the ring. She's bragging about, as your queen, you guys should be cheering me and bowing down. I'm royalty in the ring. I've always said it, but now I have the crown to prove it. And she says, Zoe Stark won't be a problem. I know she's my number one contender, but she's a loser and always loses the big match. So Zoe kind of comes out, interrupts it. She's sort of intense, more intense than usual. And she says, it's different this time. I know what I've been doing wrong. And next week you'll find out when I beat you for that national championship. So we're kind of setting up for sort of a blood match here. Seems that Tiffany Stratton always pisses her opponents off, so no surprise here. And this leads into a number one contender match for the tag team titles against Awesome Truth. We have New Day versus Pretty Deadly. Pretty Deadly's kind of been out for a little bit, off and on. And it kind of shows. I mean, New Day takes control really quickly. This match only lasts a few minutes. Kofi hits his Trouble in Paradise on Kit. Xavier Woods takes out the other half of the team, and Kofi gets a quick cover, and they win. And New Day is kind of trying to get back to where they think they belong as tag team champions. And, history says they are some of the most dominant champions ever.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm surprised by that finish at all.
And so this cuts back to backstage with Awesome Truth. Miz walks up to Truth and he's like, Truth, we have new opponents and we'll defend next week. And then Truth says, defend? I haven't called my lawyer, dog. You think he has time to come up with a defense this quick? And Miz says, no, Truth, for our titles. Oh, Truth says, that's better for me. And Miz goes, wait, Truth, what do you need a defense for? And then Truth just goes, see you next week, dog, and walks away. And we come back and we get to our main event. So Sami Zayn promised LA Knight a title shot, and it was going to happen this week. So we got it for the Intercontinental title. And this match is exactly what you would think. In the words of Sheamus, it's a banger. It's back and forth. None of them really get an upper hand. They're both hitting signatures. No one can cover each other. These are two guys that kind of fight with their heart. But Sami starts to gain momentum from the crowd. They're really pumping him up. And he gets LA Knight finally in position for his finisher for the haluva kick. But Knight moves and kind of ducks it. And Sami's leg kind of gets caught in the turnbuckle. He eventually gets it out and Knight spins him and hits a BFT, and he covers and gets this close 2 count. For a while there, we thought we were going to have a new IC champion. Knight's kind of in disbelief. He felt like that was his shot right there. And as you know, watching Sami Zayn, this is where he's at best, when his back's against the wall. He's able to recover, and they're throwing blows in the middle of the ring. Sami gains the advantage, and he goes for his Blue Thunder Bomb. Knight slips it, flips him around, and he goes for that BFT again, and it looks like he's going to hit it, but Sami's able to push him into the ropes where Knight kind of comes back, and Sami gets him in position again and finally hits that Blue Thunder Bomb and gets the cover and wins to retain. I had you for a moment, didn't you?
You did. I thought LA Knight was taking the title on an episode of Raw. Especially that hesitation for the 2 count. I was like, is Knight about to take this that quick?
I love LA Knight, and I want him to get a big win eventually, but I'm not ready for Sami to give up the title quite yet.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I'm trying to think. So, next week on Raw, we're going to get a new number 1 contender for Cody Rhodes. We got Shayna Baszler and Tiffany Stratton going at it for the women's national... Zoe Stark and Tiffany Stratton for the women's national title. But other than that, I think that's her show. So be sure to like and subscribe. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple Music. No excuse to not be able to find us. We're on every major brand. I'm going to send it over to Steven. He'll shout out his socials, and then we will get out of here.
Yeah, and I do want to note that apparently we have next week's show, and then the week after that will have to be our Clash at the Castle already.
Well, lucky for you guys, I've already been planning for Clash at the Castle. So
yeah, I don't know. It keeps surprising me how quickly these PLEs are coming back to back. I was
good
trying
time to be a fan.
Yeah, I've got a few different plans in mind for both the next week and Clash at the Castle, but I didn't realize that we only had the 1 episode left before.
Do you also realize we haven't, every PLE has been international since WrestleMania?
Yeah, and I think it's that way till SummerSlam, because we have Clash at the Castle in Scotland, and then Money in the Bank is in Canada, which at least we get to have a PLE at a
I guess we only get the big ones now.
Yeah, which, honestly, every international crowd has been amazing, but I'm a little over the 10 a.m. PLEs, honestly. But that's all right. Anyways, that was our show for today. We've set up some great matches for next week. We're going to have the next Smackdown and Raw recaps for you next week. Until then, you can follow me at Darkstar Shady on Twitter and TikTok for kind of wrestling content, trading cards, and then my Instagram is a little bit more of a personal look into just who I am as a person, honestly. Just casual selfies, pictures with things I'm doing with my wife, stuff like that. Um, and you can head to our website, darkstarshady.com/wrestling is fiction, to find links to other platforms you can listen on. And you can also head to our sponsors page I shouted out earlier. And other than that, we'll be here next week again for another episode.
All right. For the Wrestling is Fiction team, we will talk to you next week.